Anyway, it's Mike Matthews.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 246,
Mike's Daily Podcast.
66, 2466. It's Mike Matthews. That is today's episode. I've tried to do a podcast lately, but you know, I got interrupted, sidetracked, disrupted because of the COVID virus B.9590. No, wait, it's B.59.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
80% of the cases of COVID getting caught these days in California.
Mike's
a lot of cause
Daily
in that pause
Podcast.
for the cause phrase in that little rant is backed up by a friend of a friend of a friend's doctor. But that had a lot of cause in that sentence. Anyway, Mike Matthews here, finally bringing you a podcast. The last podcast was called Bygones, and it almost looked like I was gone because I was going nuts because I have an employee who has COVID. I have an employee that's like, I'm moving, and I'm sick of this place, and I'm not coming back, and that kind of thing. And then there's an employee that's telling me he might be gone by the end of the year because he's working his other job, and So, hey, if you want a job, if you're looking for employment, even though the employment rate is nice and low, and that's why we're not fully in a recession, even though the Republicans really want to have a, they really want that cloud to come over us. I mean, they really want us to open our eyes because there really is a lot of inflation. And have you seen gas prices lately? And have you tried to buy what used to be a $5 pack of corn is now a $6 pack of corn? Yes, I've seen all of that. And yet, technically, we're still not.
And here's today's podcast picture.
In a recession. I just like both sides, Republicans and Democrats, to agree that it would be really, really, really bad if the job rate, the unemployment rate, was a lot higher, which, who knows, that could happen at any point. Don't want that shoe to drop. But anyway, here we are. That is where we are. The late, great Basil the Boxer popping by. You can see a picture of him. The last podcast picture. Bygones, the name of that one. And you can see an undershot from him at mikesdailypodcast.com. I'm going to reach over here and grab my cell phone and try to figure out a podcast picture for today. It's been quite busy lately, and I did a nice barbecue though yesterday. It was very nice. It was so I had marinated some pork, put it on the grill. I should post that podcast picture. It was on some coals. I heated up some coals, and I hope yesterday was not a spare the air day because oops. But that's what we have in the Bay Area, spare the air days, to try and prevent us from doing something stupid. I'll do a podcast picture, like make a delicious outdoor summer grill, despite the fact that it has been quite overcast lately in the Bay Area. Well, in Podcastro Valley anyway. I'm going to post this nice podcast picture of Lake Elizabeth as the sun was starting to set. It made the mountains around it look rather nice in Fremont. And Fremont does do, and I took this picture on Thursday, they do a nice outdoor concert in the park, free concert in the park on Thursdays now, I believe through August. So you're probably listening to this in the month of August or elsewhere, since it is late on Sunday, the last day of July. Not my favorite month, going to be honest with you. June was not my favorite month. February was the worst month. But July, looking for a better August. Looking to take some time off and to recharge, reboot. Ah, the magic of rebooting in this crazy world.
This nightmare of a show.
That's right. Oh. Yes, we have a lot going on the planet Earth. A lot happening.
Mike, it's Mikey Fikey. Great.
Oh, Lieutenant Uhura passed away at the age of 89. Oh, wasn't she the best? She was great. Okay, let's see. There is another...
Life grand. Awesome.
Wow, 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 wow.
This is interesting.
Wow, this is interesting.
TikTokers are revolting by Gordon Ramsay video appearing to pick a lamb to slaughter. Ay. See, I don't know if people like Gordon Ramsay, who was born in 1966, making him about 55, 56, so he doesn't quite understand that anybody over 50, heck, anybody over 40, heck, anybody over 30 should not be on TikTok. I don't think anybody should be on TikTok, period. I do not like the way China is behind it somehow. I know that you can afford... I am not a conspiracy theorist, except for that. That's my big conspiracy theory. That and the Loch Ness Monster does exist, because I have uncontrovertible evidence. I don't know. I've never been to Scotland, so I have no way to know. But my mom did swim in Scotland. My late mother, she told me this great story. And you know what? The last year that I had with her, I wouldn't trade that year for anything. It's very difficult because we were on opposite ends of the country to maintain a relationship. When you have that sort of situation, you really have to call every week. Kudos to you if you can call every day. For me, every week was what I could do. My mom never called me. Once in a great while, she'd be a little worried, out of the blue, she'd call me back if I called her, but she was not big on calling people. She did not like the phone. But that was the only way we could converse, and I made sure, because I could not get her onto Skype or Zoom or Google Meet or Chat or whatever it's called now as we go outside a cafe. Anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton, the last place on earth. I couldn't get her to listen to my podcast. I couldn't get her to do anything internet related, even though she had a computer before I did. She went out and bought one, and she got all proficient on it, took a class, but that was about it. Then social media started to get big, and Facebook and that all, then it got away from her, and she's like, no, I don't care anymore. But yours truly tried to get her, because she had a laptop with a camera on it. I said, Mom, we could talk to each other. We can actually do video chats across the country. No, wasn't interested. And then she didn't have she had a flip phone for a cell phone, so there went that. So calling her was the best that I could do. And one of the stories she told me was swimming in Loch Ness, and something horrible happened while she swam in Loch Ness. No, Nessie didn't bite her. No, she got stung by a jellyfish. And it was such a bad sting, they had to take her to the hospital. And she was an au pair at that point. She was helping out a family. She was working for a family as their maid, taking care of the children. And they drove cross country with her in a camper van, as the English like to say. Camper van, driving across the country. She told me this story last year about how she was staying, because it was a rainy day. Usually when it rained, they had a tent set up. She would sleep in the tent, and then the family would stay in the camper van. But it was raining so hard, the family decided to stay in a tavern, above a tavern. They have lots of little hotel rooms you can rent, hotel inns, or whatever they call them. You stay at a tavern upstairs. They got rooms to rent. But they said, no, you can stay in the camper van. So she stayed in there, but remembered hearing all the loud music because it was a tavern out. She was out there listening to all the noise and remembered that on that memorable trip. She spent a year in England, then she spent a year in France, and there is a crazy story that she used to tell me about how she was paid by an older gentleman to clean his apartment, which he did not live in. It was his escape apartment, if you will. He was married. He hired this young, attractive German lady, young woman. My mom was very young, in her 20s at that point, and hired her to clean his apartment and fix him lunch every day. And she would fix him lunch every day, and some days he wouldn't show up, and she would just have to throw out the food. But he never, as far as she told me, never made a move on her. But that was his little thing. This attractive woman is going to clean my apartment. Some weird thing in that story, as you can tell, but fascinating. Oh, the stuff. Talk to your parents now, please. Talk to your grandparents. Talk to your relatives now. Talk to anyone who's older than you now. Talk to them. They got stories, my friend. Your friends, your older friends, ho, ho, ho. If all you're talking about are sports and the weather and the politics and the inflation and all that, no. That must cease at once. You must talk to them about their lives and what they've seen. They got some stories back there, my friend. Big stories. You've got to hear them. Get off the TikTok and talk to your... It's my life. That's Talk from the 80s. All you're doing to me is talk. Talk. Baby loves what you make it. Celebrate it. Anticipate it. Yesterday's favorite. Don't try to shake it. Loves what you make it. Everything's all right. That's one of my favorite Talk songs. Is it Love or Life's What You Make It? Either one's true. Get off the TikTok is what I'm saying. Okay, we're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Look who is here. Hi, Mark. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing? I brought my horse Nelly. Hi, Nelly. Good horse. Yes.
And it's a disgruntled fiddle player, tell you what.
What?
Your mom sounded like she had a great life.
Very interesting life, yes. She then, so a year in England, a year in France, and then she moved to America and stayed there. Moved to America in the early 60s. And that was an interesting story she told me about when I hung out with her in Florida. I got to see her last year. But before that, the last time I got to see her was in 2018. I meant to go in 2019, but Basil was getting sick, the late great Basil the boxer. And then 2020, the pandemic hit, and finally got to see her late last year. I thank God that I did. Oh, and she got to meet my lovely lady friend too, so there you go.
Yeah, okay, I didn't ask about any about that. But anyway, Mike Matthews, tell you what, this is a great podcast. People should listen to it more often.
Thank you, Disgruntled Fiddle Player. That's very nice of you. Look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer. Here's right now.
Yum. Let me try that. Yes. That's good. Hey, going to tell you something. I saw a couple interesting things that I would like to tell you about on streaming. Now, the only two streaming services I watch are Amazon Prime and Netflix. On Netflix, I told you about the show Lincoln Lawyer, and I spoke to a lawyer. A lawyer is who suggested this show to me, and he said, this is a great show, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's true. This is actually how it works. Now, in his case, the writers of the show in Lincoln Lawyer, the guy who drives a Lincoln, who has a Mexican mom and a Caucasian dad, and who grows up in LA and loves LA, and he's all like the LA, Los Angeles insider type guy, and he's got interesting friends. Now, my lawyer friend said that show could conceivably be true, could happen, because he was a whole docket, a whole caseload, all these different cases were dropped on him, on his desk. He inherited them basically from another lawyer who was killed. So he got all the load, and all these cases and all these people that were charged with different crimes. He's a defense lawyer. Technically, all those trials would have happened as quickly as they did. He says, for the most part, when you have these movies or TV shows that have some kind of case that goes to trial, like something happens, it goes to trial like right away, that never happens. He says these different, civic type cases take a long time, take years to go to trial, and it would not move as fast and be as dynamic and exciting. But he goes, that it was very believable. He gave it a thumbs up. I liked it too because it reminded me of LA when I lived down there with my mom and dad, both gone now, but it definitely had a lot of, it had like the good points, the good parts of LA that I remember, the little landmarks and such, at the beach and inland, at the downtown and everything. The other show we watch is something called Dogs, and it follows documentary style, different owners of dogs, and the interesting stories and ways they got the dog, and then what the dog has in turn done for them. This one lady had just come back from Iraq and had served a couple of times there, a couple of tours, and then she came back. She actually had saved a dog from the streets of Iraq as a puppy. Like, this puppy was just about to get killed because it was on the road, and she stopped, got the dog, kept it with her, and then she said, this base is closing up. All the dogs are just going to be released back into the surroundings with no chance of survival. So she worked with the SPCA and had the dog shipped back to America, to Boise, Idaho. There was also a veteran a young lady who had been in Iraq as well and had met the soldier in Iraq over the internet and said, I'll take your dog. I will be your foster home for this dog. I have 2 other dogs, but we'll take your dog in. She takes the dog in. Now she's got 3 dogs. They all get along so well. This dog now, it's a long journey to get this dog to America from Iraq. This dog acclimates wonderfully. But you know what he doesn't acclimate to? When the original soldier comes home finally from Iraq, she has a tough time adjusting to life back into society as we have it, compared to what she's living under the circumstances in Iraq. Now she's in this society where you walk into a market, a grocery store, and there's 5 different frozen lasagnas you can buy, 80 different types of bread or whatever. You know, it's just confusing for if you can't make quick decisions or just kind of go, I'll go with this. It's no big deal. She's overwhelmed. And then she doesn't exercise with the dog enough. The dog gets really angry, doesn't like the new situation, wants to go back to the foster home. So he does. And everything worked out. The lady who came back from Iraq is going back to Iraq, which typically seems to happen. People do more than 2 tours. But she's going back. Anyway, Cafe Anyway, that's on Netflix. Very interesting. And all these other stories involving interesting people and wonderful dogs. And finally, on Amazon Prime, they finally have on for free, if you have Amazon Prime, it's called The Year of the Rabbit, and it's Matt Berry and a bunch of other comedian British actors that are just the best. So funny, and it's bizarre. It's also very raunchy, lots of bad language, but it takes place in England during the Victorian era, where it's grungy London, really grungy London, like Jack the Ripper type London. And it's just, if you're, let's say, a grown adult, I will say you can watch it. If you're not, wait, because it's got some bad language. I mean, probably nothing different from anything you watch on HBO, but just be aware. Matt Berry is so funny, though, and the other comedians are really good in it. But that was amusing. It's only 1 season long, 6 episodes. They're going to do, apparently, a 2nd season. That was the plan. There is a rumor it might come out, the 2nd season might come out about a year and a half from now. But it doesn't look good. Looks like it got canceled. Anyway, Cafe Anyway, look who else is... Oh, I drank the root beer.
Yeah, drink it right now. Could you?
Thank you, Brewmaster. Okay, one more sip. And then I think we're going to wrap it up. But you can tell me what you think about anything we covered today. 336mm daily. 3 plus 3 equals 6. As in Mike Matthews. Daily is in what this podcast tries to be. Gets interrupted. Hopefully tomorrow I will have some of my staff back. Here's the deal. If I do not do a podcast tomorrow, here is the reason why. I don't have my staff back. I don't have my employees back. And when my employees aren't back, I can't do a podcast. So it is up to the employees to save the day and come through and help us all out by showing up so that Mike can do his podcast yet again. Because if they don't, Mike can't do his podcast. It's as simple as that. It is completely, I'm putting the onus completely on my staff. It's their fault. All their fault if I don't do a podcast tomorrow. Okay? Okay. So, hey, you can call, I should give you my works phone number so you can call them and say, hey, where's Mike's staff? Why is Mike's staff out all the time with COVID and all these other ridiculous excuses? Why don't they show up? Something like that. Say something really sensitive like that to work. But instead, you can also call 336mm daily, and I can forward that to people at work. They'll get a kick out of that. Or you can email me as well, and with info on that, it's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!